Welcome to the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show with Larry Lawson. As a former career law enforcement officer and law enforcement educator, Larry focuses on the use of tried and true law enforcement investigative techniques in conducting paranormal investigations. Despite his experience and training, Larry also keeps an open mind to discussions on topics that deal with evidence that are not quite as physical in nature. Paranormal Stakeout guests are professionals in the field of the paranormal and parapsychology, conducting the investigations and research needed to further the cause of paranormal study. Larry advocates an agenda of standardization of structure and training in the field of paranormal investigation and research for the purpose of one day being able to produce the evidence needed to convince a jury of the existence of the paranormal. Whether it is ghosts, UFOs, unsolved mysteries, hauntings or cryptids, no topic is beyond the investigative reach of Larry Lawson and the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show team. Now, here is the host of the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show, Larry Lawson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout. I'm your host, Larry Lawson, coming to you from beautiful Vero Beach, the southern hangout of the X-Zone Radio Network. And glad to have you all back. Summer has definitely arrived here in Florida, and I guess it's arrived everywhere across North America, even into Europe. It is so blazingly hot. I hope everybody is staying safe. But we've got a cool show tonight. Yes, we do. We've got a really interesting guest. I'm glad you're here tonight. We have a Cheralyn LAMBETH with us. Cher is a professional costume, prop, and puppet builder whose works include feature films such as the Muppet Christmas Carol, The Patriot, and Hunger Games. She's worked on television shows such as Dinosaurs and Homeland. And she's also been involved in live and interactive properties such as Avenue Q and Star Quest, The Experience. And she works with a mascot for the NFL Carolina Panthers. Purr. That's kind of interesting. She's also a paranormal researcher and is a member of the Charlotte Area Paranormal Society, as well as the author of Haunted Theaters of the Carolinas and her upcoming book, Cryptids of the Carolinas. Her interest mainly lies in the research of cryptids, and she has found her work as a professional creature building to be of great value analyzing cryptid-related evidence. So that's going to be something we're going to talk about, is the world of cryptids with my guest tonight, Cher LAMBETH. Cher, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Larry. I am very glad to be here.
Well, yeah, you've got such an interesting background. I'd sure like to hear how you even got involved in the paranormal. Now, you're also interested in hauntings. The paranormal.
Oh, yes.
Okay. UFOs?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But tonight, yes, the cryptid seems to be the direction we're going to go tonight. So tell us a little bit about how you found yourself in the paranormal field in general.
I was actually always interested in campfire ghost stories, camping out, Girl Scout trips, things like that. And when I started working in theater, which was part of my background, every theater has a ghost story. Every theater has a resident ghost, and we kind of take it as par for the course. It's an occupational hazard, as it were. So I've experienced a lot at the theaters I work at, and a friend of mine suggested I write a book about my experiences, and doing the research on that has led to doing research on quite a few other things. And as mentioned, I've recently really gotten into cryptids.
Well, how in haunted theaters? Yes, we've all heard about it. Why are theaters so haunted?
Well, there are several theories behind that. One being, as we all know, there are several different types of hauntings, intelligent and residual. For one thing, at theaters, the same action takes place over and over and over again. If you have a theater that's running a show for days, weeks, or even months, that action just kind of gets worn, for lack of a better term, into the fabric of space and time. So you might see a residual haunting there, but there's also a lot of energy in theaters. The electrical energy from the equipment there, the emotional energy of the audience and the actors doing their work, and all of that energy lends itself to ghosts and hauntings.
So just by your own definition, it kind of sounds like you feel that the world of ghosts, and just, I guess we're stuck there for a second, is more about energy being brought in or collected by the venue and then spit back out. So is that really a ghost, or is that energy, do you think?
Well, I think pretty much every haunting is energy of one form or another.
Hmm.
If you think about it, we're energy. We as human beings are energy. We put out our own energy. And what happens to that when this is gone? Does the energy dissipate? Where does it go? And I think many times the energy stays here for one reason or another, or the energy of the action, as we mentioned, a residual haunting, stays in place.
Which goes to that question that always pops up in our field, our community is a residual haunt then really a ghost, or is it just trapped energy? But that,
Exactly.
so that's one of those many questions. Tell us about your first experience. I mean, was it in the theater? Was it as a child?
Probably my most striking experience, I'll put it this way, was when I was working as a costume technician at the Lost Colony Outdoor Drama. It's on the island of Manteo off the coast of North Carolina. I don't know if you're familiar with the story of the Lost Colony, but it was the first British colony established
Hmm.
in North America, 1585, and basically 117 men, women, and children all just vanished. And to this day, scholars are still not entirely sure what happened to them. But there's a play, it was written by playwright Paul Green, about the story of the colony. And the theater itself is built at the actual site, which I often wonder who thought that was a good idea. But there it is. And there was one night I was working, we had just finished the production. It was late at night. I was in one of the hallways sorting costumes, and the theater itself is outside with two low-lying buildings on each side, dressing rooms, costume shop, admin offices. And as I was working on my project, I could hear footsteps coming up behind me on the wooden floor. Thinking it was one of my fellow crew members, I kind of pulled my work to the side and continued working. And the footsteps went right down the hall with no one there, down to the end of the hall, and the door at the end of the hall opened and closed by itself. And
Hmm.
yes, that's exactly what I did. I remember standing there looking at it going, and picked up my work and kind of went into the costume shop. And the clincher of the whole thing was one of my coworkers said, "Are you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost." And I had.
And you had that. Well, interesting story. What got you directed towards cryptids?
Well, in my work as a creature builder, I kind of got fascinated by all the cryptid hoaxes that are actually out there. There really are a lot of Bigfoot hoaxes specifically because it's an easy one to do, but there are some others as well. And I could look, for instance, at the famous Patterson Bigfoot film and go at length as to why I personally think that film is a fake. Now, mind you, don't get me wrong. I want there to be a Bigfoot. I want there to be a Loch Ness monster. I want those to be out there. But there are a lot of fakes and hoaxes out there. And as I tell people, I'm not a professional creature scientist, but I am a professional creature builder. And it has given me a good insight on how some of those hoaxes might be created.
Share with us, such as the Patterson film. What do you see as a puppeteer, a creature builder, as you were, that tells you that
That's a hoax.
yeah.
Well, for one thing, if you look at the back of the creature, there's a line going directly down the back that looks suspiciously like a zipper line to me, or where a zipper might be. One other feature is that many anthropologists actually point out that when the creature turns back to look at Patterson, it has to turn its whole upper body, not just its head. And they always say that that's very indicative of simian behavior, not human behavior. But I can tell you that is also behavior very indicative of someone wearing a padded fursuit with a full mask. If you think of a football player with his helmet and shoulder pads, it gets caught when you turn. And so you do have to turn your whole body. But I think one of the clinchers for me is that the recent developments in technology and the work that can be done to do closer inspection of the film has led to the discovery that the creature has breasts. It's apparently a female. And they often point out, well, a casual hoaxer wouldn't think to do that. But if that suit was made, then it was clearly made by a professional. And I can tell you from personal experience that that's exactly the kind of thing professional filmmakers, technicians do to amuse themselves. I can easily see a team saying, "Oh, I know what will be funny. Let's put breasts on this thing." And so I don't see that as definitive evidence that it's not a hoax.
Well, there's been other videos out there showing big, and we'll stick on Bigfoot for just a second. How many of those have you seen are also fake?
I have seen quite a few, and there are some that look to me that I really can't explain myself. There are also some that are clearly somebody in a suit. There's one video out there, and I can't remember exactly where it came from, or whether it's a photograph where it looks like a Bigfoot, but on closer inspection, it was actually a bird that was right up against the camera lens, and it gave a very odd silhouette. So, I'm not saying they're all deliberate hoaxes or deliberate
Mhm.
fakes, but I tend to think that most cryptids are misidentification, are the usual animals in unusual circumstances.
Have you ever been called in to look at a video and give your professional opinion as to whether or not it's a, a fake?
I have. We've recently gotten, interestingly enough, a rash of cryptid sightings and reports here. My team has gotten some requests for investigations, and there are some photos I've seen that, I can't explain. But I will say too, and I think this is probably true in the entire paranormal realm now with the advent of AI, it's getting better all the time.
Mhm.
And I strongly suspect it's eventually going to reach the point where it's going to be difficult to tell without serious technical equipment.
Do you see all of this AI stuff? And I've talked to several folks about the same subject later or in recent past. Is it going to really ruin the world of paranormal research and investigation because you just aren't going to know who's telling the truth and who's lying anymore? I mean, that's always been an issue, but
Right.
is it going to get worse now?
I hope not. I really do. As we all know, there have been quite a few, I don't know if attempts is the right word, quite a few things out there made specifically to fool paranormal investigators. Look at Slender Man, for instance.
Hmm.
And I remember my team actually got a photo from someone who was like, oh, my 15-year-old took a picture of this strange looking man in his room. And we're like, yeah, that's a clip from a Slender Man video game. We know exactly what that is, and we do our homework as well. So there are always going to be people out there trying to fool paranormal investigators or trying to create their own evidence, so to speak. But I think AI is definitely going to make it a lot harder to determine what's real and what isn't.
So your team, how many's on your team?
We have probably about 12 to 15 on our team. And each person has kind of their own specialty, so to speak. We have equipment people, the technical people who are very good at the equipment. We have
Mhm.
me who specializes in the cryptids. We have people who specialize in, ghosts, for instance. We also have a spirit remediation team that can help people who have hauntings they may not necessarily want to keep in their homes. We have people who can go and help them with that. So we each kind of bring our own specialty to the table.
Uh, what is the most common complaint or investigative request you're getting right now?
Usually it's people who have, I think there's a ghost in my house. So, think doors are opening and closing on their own. We're hearing strange noises. It's touching me.
Hmm.
Our team leader is especially on it if there are children involved because,
As he
yeah,
should be.
yes.
When we get back, I want to hear a little bit about your upcoming book. So, folks, stay with us. We've got to take our first break here. We'll be back with Cheryl Lambeth in just a minute. Interesting stuff. See you after the break. And we are back with my guest tonight, Cheralyn Lambeth. Cher, once again, thanks for being on the show. And you've written a
Thank
couple
you.
books, and the latest one, I guess, so the one you're heading down the road with, has to do with cryptids.
Yes, Cryptids of the Carolinas. It's
Talk to
scheduled.
us about that.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's scheduled to be released in mid-July by Perspective Press here in North Carolina. And it basically covers cryptids found specifically in North and South Carolina. And I actually eventually just had to stop my research to get the book finished because I kept finding more and more that I had never heard of before.
So, what kind of research do you do?
Well, I've done quite a bit online, which is what leads me down rabbit holes. But every so often, someone will also come to me with a story that I hadn't heard before. In fact, a good friend of mine set me on the trail of one called the knot deer, which I hadn't heard of before. And the more research I did on that, the more fascinated I was. But some other stories, of course, there are cryptids throughout the world. Every culture has a legend of a Bigfoot type creature. Lake monsters and sea serpents exist all over the world. So it was interesting to me to see how our Carolina cryptids compared to others throughout the world.
It just seems like there are so many different types of cryptids out there. Bigfoot, of course, being the favorite. What's your favorite? What's your favorite story?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think I have to say my favorite cryptid is probably the Carolina's most favorite, and that would be the scape or swamp monster, otherwise known as the lizard man. And the Lizard Man of South Carolina actually has kind of a special place in my heart. My mom grew up in Lamar, South Carolina, which is literally a stone's throw from where Scape Ore Swamp is. And my uncle actually knew Sheriff Liston Truesdale that took the very first report of the Lizard Man. So he's kind of a neighborhood guy, as it were.
And I've seen the video, and that's pretty fascinating. Once again, we're going to assume that the video is not faked. And if it's not, the guy that was calling it in was obviously very, very frightened, very, very startled by what happened.
Yes.
Kind of walk the audience through what you found out in your research of this.
Well, so the Lizard Man first appeared in 1988. A young man by the name of Christopher Davis was traveling down the road, claims he got a flat tire, and when he stopped to fix it, suddenly he described it as a 7-foot tall reptilian creature with glowing red eyes, literally jumped out of the swamp at him and came after him. Well, he ran from the creature a little bit. It finally disappeared back into the swamp, but he, as you said, he clearly was terrified by it, whatever he saw. And the lizard man sightings have been few and far between. There haven't really been that many, but every so often he'll kind of poke his scaly head back up and make an appearance. He's been featured on, of course, the Discovery Channel, the Travel Channel, the History Channel. There are other books written about him. There's a great little display about him at the South Carolina Cotton Museum in Bishopville, South Carolina, with a cast of a footprint. So he's definitely made his mark in cryptid lore.
But he's only to that general geographic area. How often has he been seen or reported?
I believe the last reported sighting was either back in 2015 or 2018. It was quite some time ago. And if there have been other sightings, no one has really come forward. Certainly there are not very many, if any, pictures of him. And the only solid evidence has been the cast of the footprint and, of course, cars that have been marked up, other pieces of property that have been destroyed supposedly by the lizard man. So he's not around very often, but he definitely makes a splash literally sometimes when he does reappear.
Well, one of the first things that comes to my mind is the reptilians, the alien reptilians is one of them. What are some of the other cryptids that we can find in your book connected to the Carolinas?
Well, one that is specific only to North Carolina is a creature called the Yeho of Bald Head Island. Bald Head Island is a small island just off the coast of Southport near Wilmington, North Carolina. It's only accessible by ferry. It's a small, almost tropical island. There are parts of it that look literally like a jungle, but it was used as a stronghold during both the Revolutionary and Civil Wars. There are some old forts there. It has several lighthouse stations, or had several lighthouse stations. Back in the 30s, a man by the name of Captain Charles Swan, Captain Charlie, as they called him, told his children to wander off into the woods because if they did, the Yeho would hit them. And according to Captain Charlie, the Yeho was a tall creature. It had rake-like hands and a hoe for a head, and with it he would chop your head clean off.
A hoe for a head, okay.
For a head. Now, no one's ever actually seen the Yeho, and except for a few grainy pictures of footprints on the beach and a footprint cast, there really isn't anything else out there about him. But he's certainly known to those on the island, and he's unique to North Carolina. To my knowledge, no one else has a Yeho.
Oh, that's good. Um, what's your is your favorite one the reptilian? Is that your favorite?
Yeah, probably the lizard man.
The
But
lizard man.
the
Yeah.
Yeho is a close second, yes.
Who else you have up there? What else are we going to find in your book?
Well, I recently discovered a subcategory, I guess you would call it, cryptids of sound, which I really hadn't known existed until I started doing a deep dig. But there are plenty of odd noises out in our swamps, out in our sandy foothills. There's one called the Black River Singing Thing, which is apparently almost like a disembodied voice heard in the Black River. It's near the coast of North Carolina. And as I was doing research, I determined the reason they're considered to be cryptids is that people attribute these sounds to actual creatures. Even though the creatures themselves haven't been seen, they are attributed to I guess living beings. So that's where they're considered acoustic cryptids or cryptids of sound. So you can read about the Black River Singing Thing, the Sandhills Screamer, and there's one called the Haw River Howler. So I have a whole chapter dedicated to cryptids of sound.
How many of these cryptids, and have you been able to get into the field and actually search for any of these critters?
We have, and as I mentioned, my paranormal team, the Charlotte Area Paranormal Society here, has recently gotten several back-to-back cryptid reports, and both of them sound very much like a cryptid known as the rake. I don't know if you're familiar with the rake. It's something that's just recently appeared in the cryptid scene, but
Mhm.
they're described as the very thin, elongated, pale-skinned uh, humanoid creatures,
The
but they have,
Nordics.
yeah, they have very long fingers, and they're terrifying. From
Mhm.
what I've seen. So we've had two recent reports of rake-like creatures that we've investigated one, and we didn't really find anything at the site. And the person who reported it to us said he hasn't seen it since. So we don't know if it was native to the area or maybe moving through. But we have another one of a very similar sounding creature coming up, and we plan to investigate that one very soon.
Okay. When you're in the field and you're interviewing these folks that have witnessed this, how often do you find that that- or do you find most of them are very believable?
Uh, I'm so sorry, Larry. I can't hear you. You just went out.
Oh, okay. What I was asking is ability wise.
There we go.
There's so many different stories out there. You've got to wonder how could all of these creatures be out there yet so few see them. So coming in from a cop's point of view, you've got to look at I would look at the credibility of the witness. How often do you find they lack credibility as compared to being very believable?
Interestingly enough, all of the people we've interviewed so far with our cryptid sightings have been very believable. They all have very reliable statements. Some of the statements have been corroborated, for instance, by their spouses and children. They seem very believable, and we have not had any reason to doubt them. And they also have tried to get photos and videos themselves. We've gotten some very interesting audio recordings from one of our reported sightings that it really does sound like an odd creature out in the woods. Now, again, we haven't had a chance to investigate this one, but it certainly sounds credible to me. And certainly with the growing number of rake sightings around the world, it makes me wonder, or I have to think, that these sightings too are credible.
Once again, lots of Bigfoot sightings. They continue on. I think there's been some studies recently that show patterns uh, connected to times of years as well as locations. Lots of sightings, lots of reports. Very little evidence.
True.
I mean, one of the things you always hear about, well, if there's a Bigfoot out there, how come we haven't found the remains of one? How come all the drones out there we haven't seen them? Um, the lizard man in South Carolina there.
Mhm.
Why hasn't anybody seen it or gotten a picture of it? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, and interestingly enough, in terms of Bigfoot, specifically, I know there are many legends of indigenous people that believe Bigfoot is actually an interdimensional being, that he
Mhm.
phases in and out of his world and our world. That's why so many photos are blurry. That's why we've never yet seen an actual Bigfoot body. There are other theories that speculate Bigfoot, at least for instance, may bury their dead just as we do. And that's why one reason we may not stumble upon a corpse in the woods. I will say it's very rare to stumble on even like a deer or a bear in the woods. The nature does its thing, and it's almost immediately gone. So that would probably be another reason we don't ever find a cryptid body or an actual site of a cryptid while we're out in the wild.
So you put some faith, some belief in the dimensional theory.
You know, interestingly enough, in terms of cryptids, it seems to make as much sense as many of the other theories that we have. As I said, I tend to believe most cryptid sightings are, again, the usual animals in unusual circumstances. But there are a handful that cannot really be explained, or at least I've not found a rational explanation for them. And if you're trying to find a theory as to why we can't find them, the interdimensional theory does seem to make a lot of sense.
Okay. Loch Ness, Nessie, Champ in Lake Champlain, both
Yes.
seem to be similar ones. With your background in puppeteering, I'm sure you've seen the videos.
Oh, yes.
What are your thoughts on that cryptid?
It's funny you should say that. I was actually just finishing up a chapter on our local lake monster here, Normie, the Lake Norman monster, and he has been compared to the Loch Ness monster. The sightings are similar in many ways. People have reported seeing humps in the water, similar to Nessie, a creature with a kind of a long snake-like head, again, similar to Nessie. So it makes me wonder if these creatures might not be something that's living in the lake. For instance, Lake Norman has some enormous catfish. They can get up to 60, 70 pounds. And that's a big fish. We also have gar, which are very long, thin fish that can probably give the appearance of a serpent-like creature. There are also freshwater eels, which I believe are in Loch Ness as well. Again, I really want there to be a Nessie. I know back in 2008, I think it was, a research team from New Zealand actually trawled the entire lake and didn't find a sign of Nessie. But interestingly enough, they did find several new species of sponge that they didn't know existed before. So we are constantly finding new species, new creatures, and perhaps Nessie and some of the other lake monsters are simply a species of creature we haven't found yet.
If you had to guess, what's the number of cryptids, lesser known as well as the well-knowns, in this country alone, if you had to guess?
Oh my goodness, I couldn't even begin to guess. I've discovered almost 30 just in North and South Carolina alone. So if you think about that, about 10 to 15 in each state, that's what, several hundred, which is a pretty big number.
Well, we're going to take our next break now. And when you come back, I want to talk to you a little bit about what your philosophy on all this is, a little bit more detail. So folks, stay with us after this break. I'm with Cheralyn, LAMBETH, and we're talking cryptids. See you after the break. And welcome back, folks, with my guest, Cher LAMBETH. You know, it's interesting to have somebody with your background on the show. Very few people have the talent to be able to see that these things are fake. But I would like to know, what is the most compelling evidence that you have seen? And we'll stay in the realm of cryptids for right now. We may talk ghosts a little bit, but as far as cryptids, what is the most compelling evidence that you have found that you just cannot find any evidence that it's a costume?
Well, I will say one cryptid that really fascinates me is one that I think was first referred to as the Fresno night crawlers. And these are creatures that basically look like a head with two long spindly legs coming off of it, and that's it. There's no real defined torso. There's no arms. It was basically just a very pale, almost flimsy looking creature with the head and legs. It's been reported several times. I can't remember when the first report was, in Fresno, California, I think in 2012, maybe back in the early 2010s. But a homeowner caught one on their camera, and it really did. It looked for all the world like just a head with two legs running across the lawn. There were also similar creatures reported on a national park trail cam that showed several of these creatures walking down a field, an empty field in the dark. And other camera recordings have come up with creatures that look like that. Now, I have an inkling of how that might be faked, but it seems very complicated, and I don't know that a casual hoaxer would really go to that much trouble to make 3 or 4 of those things and then try to film it in a national park, unless of course the video itself was a technical fake, but it claimed to come from a national park cam, so who
Hmm.
knows. But I have to say, I think that's one of the most compelling cryptids I've seen. There were also some wood carvings of creatures that looked very similar to that made by an indigenous tribe out west. So clearly there was some history there for those types of beings. And I think that's evidence I'm still trying to decipher.
Okay. Anything on Bigfoot? Anything specifically on Bigfoot that you've looked at and said, there's no way they could have faked that?
Not yet. It's I'm sure it's there, but in terms of Bigfoot being one of the most popular cryptids, he's also one of the most popular ones that people try to fake.
Hmm.
And there have been quite a few fakes. Actually, it doesn't even really need to be that hard. Back in 2008, 2 hikers down in Georgia claimed to have found a Bigfoot body and sold it for a ridiculous amount of money on eBay.
Hmm.
And it took the buyers a surprisingly long time to admit that it was actually a rubber gorilla suit with deer guts added for realism. So, yeah, there are plenty of fakes out there.
And what is that doing to individuals? And there are plenty of them out there that are sincerely trying to research this phenomenon, trying to find out what the answers are. How does this, things like that affect what they're doing, in your opinion?
It definitely affects research in terms that now all of us researchers, and not just with cryptids but also with ghosts, with UFOs, with any other parts of the paranormal realm, you really have to look at it from a very hard lens, and to eliminate all other possibilities, all other prospects before you settle on it and say, yeah, that's something I can't explain or define. So I think it makes our job harder in that respect, and people really are out there trying to get the Bigfoot video, the UFO video. And AI aside, now there are simple apps on your phone that will put something in a photo. So it's definitely made our job harder.
Well, you have a team. It's been together for a while, correct?
Yes, since 2006 or seven, it's been around quite a
Oh,
while.
okay. So it's been around a while. What do you see that your team could do, or the field in general? What can we do to change the direction? Because obviously these things are happening. You're seeing, especially with the UFO, oh man, we're seeing so much stuff on UFOs now.
Yes.
What's it going to take to get us over the hump, so to speak, and get rid of the fakers and really do some real search? What are we going to need to do?
That's that's going to be a tough one. And I've often talked about this with some of my teammates and other paranormal researchers. The shows, all the ghost hunting shows out there now, they're very, very popular. It wasn't that long ago, and I'm sure you remember these times where if you were interested in ghosts or Bigfoot or UFOs, ooh, you were a crazy weird person. But
Yep.
now it's very mainstream. All of those ghost shows out there have made it very popular. So it's great that there is now this surge in interest in the paranormal. It's also not so great that there's a surge in interest in the paranormal because, as we just said, it perpetuates hoaxes, people trying to make a buck from the latest Bigfoot video.
Mhm.
It's definitely made things difficult for us as serious researchers to try to find the actual evidence that's out there. And now, as we were just discussing about AI, with all the AI things that could be out there now, how do we know what might be real and what might not be real? Which is going to make things even harder for us. I don't know that there's a way we can fix it.
What has your team done, or has your team been able to do anything to combat this?
So far, we haven't really encountered any videos or photos that were clearly AI or that people were really trying to pull one over on us. pretty much all of the people who contact us are very sincere in what they have going on, especially again with people who have something in their house that they're not very sure about and that we try to go and help them with. The two cryptid cases we have, as I said, both of these were very credible. We had no reason to doubt the people that were reporting them. We did our best. We certainly, did our best to help the first one. We're going to do our best to help the second case that we have going on. So we think that the only thing we can do is just be sincere ourselves, not automatically poo-poo someone who might have a serious concern. I'm sure in all of your research and work, people have shown you probably countless pictures of orbs, and we get those as well. And instead of just saying, oh, well, we don't count orbs as being anything paranormal, we point out to them in the picture, it could possibly be a flare off of this light here. It could possibly be a reflection from this shiny surface here. Sometimes they're open to that. Sometimes they're like, oh, no, I know what I saw and took a picture of. And, there's not much we can do to convince them otherwise. But we just try to be sincere and credible ourselves.
Okay. Other than that, what can we do as a field, all of us together? What can we do to change the perception? Don't we need the scientific community to partner with us a little bit better in order to find the answers? How do we get them involved? How do we change the perception of it being all woo-woo and being real? How do we do that?
Yes, I agree with you on that. I agree it would absolutely be great if we could get hard science researchers, scientists to work with us and determine the quantitative aspects of the things that people are seeing. It actually was taken quite seriously some years ago. They were doing all the remote viewing. They were doing a lot more research. Now we're starting to discover all of the actual research and documentation about UFOs that has been collected over the years. So I'm hoping that maybe, for instance, with the UFO information coming out, that might open the door to making things a little more credible in terms of ghosts and cryptids, other parts of the paranormal realm.
Okay, let's talk about this then. What are you're in this field, you're doing it because of your experiences, the stories that you've heard. You've been out in the field doing the work. What is your opinion? What is your philosophical opinion of what this is?
Well, certainly in terms of ghosts, for instance, I absolutely believe in ghosts. As I often tell people, I have seen and heard enough to convince me. As we discussed earlier, we as human beings are energy ourselves. And when the physical realm is gone, what happens to that energy? You can't destroy energy. So does it go to a higher realm? Does it stay here? Most people tend to think ghosts are the spirits of those who've passed over. And I tend to believe that as well. Animals too have been reported as ghosts. So it's not just humans, and they too are energy just like us. So I do believe in ghosts. Interestingly enough, I'm a preacher's kid. I have often had this discussion with my father, and the Bible itself mentions ghosts. So, certainly this is something that has been with us a very, very long time. It's not something we're just now discovering or trying to come to terms with. It's something that humankind has dealt with for thousands and thousands of years. So I think certainly in terms of ghosts, that there is a realm out there that we probably don't know everything about. We really don't know everything about. In terms of UFOs, I absolutely believe there is alien life out there as well. In a universe that's infinitely vast, how can we possibly be the only intelligent things in it? It would not make any sense. So I do believe there are other civilizations out there. And if you stop and think about it, we as human beings on Earth, we send spaceships out to other planets to investigate them, to try to learn about them. Look at all the rovers we've sent to Mars. Think about what, if there were Martians on Mars, what they would be thinking if the rover suddenly comes hurtling out of the sky and plops itself down and starts digging up their backyard. They probably think
maybe they don't want anything to do with us either. So after watching us for a bit. Are they all connected? Are they all connected, Cher?
I think they are in many ways.
How?
It's interesting to note that Bigfoot sightings are often reported after a spate of UFO sightings, that those things seem to be connected. Aliens, Are aliens cryptids? Yeah, I would tend to say so. A cryptid is basically a creature whose existence hasn't been proven by science, and so far, no one has presented definitive proof of that aliens exist. Yet they are viewed as living creatures, so that's kind of a crossover there. And there has been speculation that maybe Bigfoot, as opposed to being just an interdimensional creature, is a ghost of the creature that actually existed. So I do tend to think that the realm is all interconnected.
You mentioned a moment ago that whenever Bigfoots are sighted, there's also a spate of UFO activity. Is there any hard data on that yet? Has anybody done the research and put the two together that you're aware of?
I know that the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization has had some corresponding data in those regards. I believe some other groups have as well. It has often been reported that when there have been UFO sightings, or rather when there's been a Bigfoot sighting, lights in the sky had been reported not too long before. So it does seem to be a correlation there, and it makes you wonder, well, in that case, is Bigfoot himself an alien? Possibly. Certainly we don't have definitive proof either way.
Any connection with some of the lesser known cryptids and UFO activity?
Not to my knowledge. Now, we also know there are USOs, unidentified submerged objects, and speculation that instead of coming from outer space, all of these craft are actually coming from our own oceans. We actually know more about the face of the moon than we do about the bottom of our own oceans. And so who's to say what might be down there? Is that where lizard men are? Is that where reptilians are? Who knows what could be down at the bottom of our oceans and flying craft out of them? So certainly in that regard, cryptids and UFOs could be closely connected.
You keep saying could be possibly, and I understand that completely, but doesn't that boil down to the big question is we really don't know?
We really don't know. And I hope that we may find out some of these things in my lifetime. I remember years ago when UFOs were still kind of a taboo subject, the thought was we're not going to know for sure. Nobody's going to believe it until one actually lands on the White House lawn, right? But, the White House, the government now is releasing more information about UFOs and UFO research.
And so let's talk about, we've got to take our next break. Sorry to cut you off. We've got to take our next break. But when we come back, let's talk a little bit about the disclosures. Be right back after these messages, folks.
Are you ready to dive into the mysteries of the unknown? Tune into the electrifying X-Zone radio TV show hosted by the one and only Rob McConnell.
I'm Rob McConnell, and get ready for a mind-bending journey through the unexplained phenomenon that surrounds us all. From UFO encounters to cryptids, ghosts, and everything in between, we've got it covered here in the X-Zone.
Rob McConnell, the seasoned investigator and renowned radio personality, brings you the most compelling interviews with top experts, authors, and experiencers from around the world. Each episode is an unforgettable exploration into the depths of the extraordinary.
That's right, X-Zone Nation. Join me every week as we open the door to the supernatural and explore the strange and amazing stories that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew.
And it's not just radio anymore. With our groundbreaking TV show, you can now witness the sessions unfold right before your eyes. From chilling reenactments to captivating visuals, prepare yourself for a multimedia experience like never before.
With a legacy spanning over 2 decades, the X-Zone Radio and TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, is your ultimate source for mind-blowing entertainment and thought-provoking discussions. Join our growing community of truth seekers as we continue to unlock the world's mysteries.
So, why wait? Step into the X-Zone and embark on a journey that will challenge your beliefs, ignite your curiosity, and keep you on the edge of your seat.
Remember, X-Zone Nation, the truth is out there, and it's waiting for you right here on the X-Zone Radio and TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell. Don't miss a minute of the action.
Tune in now on your favorite radio station or visit xzoneradiotv.com to join the adventure. The X-Zone Radio TV show with Rob McConnell, where reality meets the unknown.
the X Zone Radio TV show, unraveling the secrets of the universe, one episode at a time. For more information, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com.
And we are back with my guest, Cher LAMBETH. An interesting conversation tonight. But before we get going, I want to take a second to give a shout out to all of our new viewers on the CanCom Broadcast Network. So happy that you're joining us here now. If you'd like to see more of my past shows, as well as some of the other great programming on the X Zone, go to xzbn.net and you can catch all of my past shows, as well as some other great hosts that you just get a tremendous amount of enjoyment and information from. If you'd like to learn a little bit about my crew and what we're doing down here, you can check me out at IndianRiverHauntings.com, which is our website. Check us out also on Facebook at the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation, as well as Indian River Hauntings, LLC. And if you really want to see some of our videos of some of the things that we've done, go to our YouTube channel at the @ Indian River Hauntings 2341. So, Cher, how can folks find you, and where can they find your books online?
I have my website. It's CheralynLambeth.com. You can also find me on Facebook at Cheralyn Lambeth and Instagram at Cher Lambeth. And my books are available on Amazon. In addition to the Haunted Theaters book, I also have a book called Introduction to Puppetry Arts, focusing on my creature building. And my first fiction book, 'Twas Halloween Evening, A Tale of the Zombie Apocalypse, can also be found on Amazon.
Oh, I might have to get that one. Zombie Apocalypse, huh? Very, very, very cool. Thank you very much. We were starting to talk a little bit about UFOs, and there's been a lot of things with the disclosures coming out right now. One of the ones that I personally found interesting, I'd love to get your take on it, is the assertions from Dr. Stephen Greer. Are you familiar with Dr. Greer?
Yes, yes.
And his assertion that a lot of what we're seeing are reverse engineered craft that we have done based upon UFOs that we've shot down or disabled and re-engineered them. What are your thoughts on the current state of the UFO world, Dr. Greer's theories?
I would say that I would tend to lean towards agreeing with that. It's interesting to me to note how exponential our technology has been. If you look back just 30, 40, 50 years ago, computers back then were big, clunky things. Now we have the entire internet in our hands. That was fast compared to what had happened previously the 50 years before. So it does make me wonder, where are we getting the technology from? Is this something we're really just coming up with ourselves, or are we finding things that are helping us build this incredible technology? One theory about UFOs and aliens is that they're not from other worlds, but that these are actually us. These are human beings and craft from the future who have come back and basically are checking on us, or maybe steering things in the direction to create what we will eventually become. So I have to wonder if that might be part of what we're seeing. I definitely do feel that we are getting our technology from other places than just us.
So you're thinking that time is rather linear, and the past, the present, the future are all occurring at the same time. Is that what I'm hearing?
I often do wonder about that. Parallel worlds, for instance, parallel dimensions. There are sometimes I suspect that there's another world out there with another me in it who is doing a lot better than I am. And it makes me wonder. You often hear about people, the glitch in the matrix, so to speak.
Okay.
You often hear about people seeing odd occurrences or odd things that make us wonder, are we in a simulation? Are we in an alternate world? So it just makes, I do have to wonder where these things are coming from.
Okay, then I've got a question for you. You're in the entertainment world. You've done a lot of work. There was talk with the new Spielberg movie,
Yes.
Disclosure, that he was really trying to tell us something. And there's always been talk about past films actually kind of giving us hints of things that really are happening, but in a movie form.
Yes.
Do you see that in Hollywood?
I do. I've often talked about that too with some friends of mine who are also in both fields. You look at Close Encounters of the Third Kind, for instance, which was way, way back. Gosh, it seems like a
Hmm.
long time ago now. And there has been speculation that many of the sci-fi alien films that have come out are trying to prepare us for what's to come, for disclosure. I did read just recently an interesting article about disclosure where people are saying, oh, this is really going to throw, people of faith for a loop because, if there are aliens out there, what God do they believe in? But then somebody else said, and I tend to agree, we've been dealing with alien films for decades. I think we're going to be okay. So I don't know that that's really going to make a difference for us one way or the other in that regard.
So you're not holding much stock in the fact that the film people know something we don't.
I do have to wonder sometimes because where are they getting some of this information from? Are they really, again, just creating it out of thin air, or are they basing it on things? One of my favorite TV shows back in the day was Project Blue Book, not the one that was recently out, but the one that actually came out in the 70s. And I was a wee thing at the time, but I did enjoy that show. And clearly a lot of what was in that show was based on actual case files and actual reports. So there is some information out there. It's sometimes just difficult, as we've discussed with evidence, discerning the truth from fiction.
Yeah, but then you look back at some old shows. Dick Tracy. Do you remember Dick Tracy? You
I
might be
do.
young
Well,
for.
yes, I'm familiar with
Well,
it. Yes.
he used to talk into his wristwatch.
Yes.
He talked. Good old Captain Kirk would flip open the communicator. Boy, that looks something similar to what we've used,
That
doesn't it?
flip phone.
So
Yes.
you do have to kind of wonder: is there something that they know that we don't?
Well, I have to admit, one of my very favorite films is the first Back to the Future movie, and watching that or watching the second movie rather, where he does go forward to 2015, and all of the things there that they speculated might come about did come about. The big screen TVs on the wall with multiple channels going at the same
Mhm.
time, the TVs at the dining room tables, the talking video chats, video talking, all of that now exists. Still waiting for the flying car, but I suppose it's only a matter of time.
So, as we start to unfortunately, wrap up our time together, first question I'd like to ask you is: besides your book, you've got some other projects going too, don't you?
I do. In addition to my cryptid book, I have a cryptid map to go with it. But one fun, cool project, I am waiting to hear if I reclaimed my Guinness World Record for the
Oh,
world's largest collection of finger puppets.
oh, wow. Okay. So you've okay. Not too paranormal, but interesting nonetheless. World's largest collective
Yes.
fingers. Okay, very, very cool.
Yes. It goes
Um,
along with my creature building. But yes, that's one of the projects I had been working on. And then the cryptid book, of course, has been my big project, which is finally coming to fruition. So
when do
I'm
you think we might see that on the bookshelves?
it's scheduled to be launched mid-July, and then hopefully it will be out in common circulation not too long after that.
Oh, very, very good. Well, I wish you a lot of luck with that.
Thank you.
Um, Last question I want to talk about a little bit is: where do you see, you're obviously invested in the world of paranormal research. Where do you see the future? Where do you see us heading?
In terms of paranormal research, it's
Hmm.
in some ways, I hope we discover some things are true, and in other ways, I kind of hate to lose the mystery. It's one of the things about paranormal research that's fascinating is it's a lot of what if. What if there is a Bigfoot? What if there is a Loch Ness monster? Or what if there is alien life on other worlds? And it's fun to speculate. I think it also offers hope in many regards because it gives us something to look forward to discover new worlds, as they say in Star Trek. So while I hope that we do discover definitive evidence on some things, I also kind of hope that we don't in many ways.
Well, do you ever think that maybe one of the reasons we don't have the progression we'd like is because frankly there are those that don't want the mystery to end?
I have thought about that as well. Yes. And, my thought is, but But why? Humans are constantly searching and trying to discover the answers for things. And, to withhold those answers it sometimes almost seems like a cruel trick in some ways. But again, it does give us something to strive towards, to invest in, and to hope for.
Do you see us improving our methods and, more importantly, our equipment? Do you see anything like that happening?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you look at the new equipment that's just come out in recent years. I know my team often uses the Xbox SLS system. We have found that to be a helpful companion tool when doing research. We tend to like to have corroboration from several sources, not just one particular piece of equipment or one particular feel. So we will often try to have several pieces of equipment out. We also recently invested in a couple of pieces of equipment called the Dead Bell, which looks like a hotel desk bell that, of course, will ring if it detects EMF. And that has given us some interesting responses. And I have a device called very similar to a K2 meter, but it's much more sensitive, and it also picks up other energy fields. So we do use quite a bit of different equipment, and we do tend to go on the scientific method. We do tend to like to have solid evidence that we can analyze.
That's a whole different discussion, how tough it is to use the scientific experiment. What was your most compelling piece of ghost evidence?
Probably some photographs that we've gotten.
Really?
Well, one thing that I do is I work with a museum here in town called Historic Rosedale, and it is quite haunted. The staff that are there experience things regularly when we're not looking for them. But we have gotten some compelling photographs that I'm not sure how you would fake those, just from guests taking cell phone pictures on the spot and seeing things come up that look basically like an apparition standing there. So that has been some compelling evidence for me also too, because I know who and what is supposed to be there. So it's kind of interesting to see those that knowledge corroborated by physical evidence.
Do you have one photograph in particular that says, hey, there's no doubt that's something from the other side?
We do have a picture taken. We have an oak tree on the property that's almost 150 years old. And we were doing an investigation one night. We often do public investigations as fundraisers for the site. It all goes to the preservation. And we had a guest who took a series of 3 photographs of the tree. The first 2 just showed the tree, but the third one showed for all the world what looked like a small figure. It was basically a figure of light running towards the tree. And the thing that was compelling about that particular piece of evidence was it had a shadow underneath it. It wasn't just the figure of light, it had a shadow. So clearly there was something there blocking light. And then again, we didn't see it with the naked eye, but it only showed up in that one photograph.
Interesting. What do you do with those photographs? I mean, you put them online, but what do you do to preserve them?
We definitely, I personally have a file, a collection of photographs that I keep and maintain, so I can go back and refer to them, that we can have them on site. Sometimes we'll put them on the website so that people can see what they might find if they come for a paranormal investigation.
Well, we've got about a minute left. I'd like to get your parting words. Anything you'd like to let the audience hear about you and what you do?
Well, one thing I will say, and this is a quote in my book, as Shakespeare said, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy, coming from a theater person. And he was talking about ghosts. So I would say always expect the unexpected and have an open mind. Keep an open mind.
Have an open mind. I think that's probably my favorite piece of advice. Well, I really want to thank you for joining us tonight. It was a wonderful conversation. I wish you luck up there in beautiful Charlotte. It's a wonderful part of the country.
Yes,
and I'd also like to thank all of you for joining us here tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you will join us again next time. Remember to always give your family a hug. Take care of those that love you. And until we meet again, take care, and we'll see you on the other side. Have a good night, folks.